Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark. Thank you so much for joining us to this special episode of What's New in Prisma. Today, we're going to be talking about Prisma 5. We just released it, and it has been really awesome seeing you guys react to it on Twitter and LinkedIn and GitHub, and everybody seeing where all these speed improvements have been coming from. And today, we're here to talk about those speed improvements and also what else we have done inside of Prisma 5. So, welcome to the stream. Feel free to ask questions throughout the entire stream. We're here to help you guys answer any questions that you might have. And to join me today, I have two awesome other developer advocates with Prisma, John and Alex. Let's pull them up here. Hello, John, and hello, Alex. What's going on, guys? Welcome to What's New with Prisma.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So before we jump into this, I think what we're going to start off today with is the demo for Prisma 5. And as far as the speed improvements go, Alex is going to jump into that here in a moment. Before we get into that, why don't we talk about, what we kind of do here at Prisma, and maybe Alex, you can start us off with that and what excites you about Prisma 5.
Of course. So what we're doing here, Prisma. So we're trying to build the best tool when it comes to working with databases in the Node.js ecosystem. And therefore, we're kind of doubling down our efforts to make sure we provide the best experience. And right now, we're currently focusing on just improvements overall. So hopefully, we appreciate your feedback, and therefore, as we continue on our journey.
Sweet. And so what do you specifically do when you're when you're at Prisma, working for Prisma, right? You're part of the ORM team, right?
Yes. So it's a lot of things. There are a lot of projects ongoing just within the ORM space. But currently, it's just making sure that we have the right information for our users, because that matters a lot, and we want to ensure that anyone who's using Prisma is successful. So documentation, content, and creating awareness and example projects and all that shebang. Yeah. And in case you have any issues, yes, we are the points of contact. You can tell us so that we can tell our product engineering, and then we can make Prisma better.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys and show off the cool stuff that Prisma's doing. John, you want to say hi to everybody? Introduce yourself. Talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is John Harrell, Senior Developer Advocate here at Prisma. I am the other developer advocate on the ORM team alongside Alex. Basically fielding a lot of questions from people coming in. You might see me on our Discord server quite a bit. That's sort of where I spend my time when I'm not working on examples and documentation for y'all.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to put that link in the chat here in just a moment. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into Prisma 5. And the main thing we're here today to talk about today is the speed improvements that we did with Prisma 5. And Alex is going to be talking about, or giving off a demo and talking about all of that. Alex, you want to go ahead and take that away?
Of course, sure. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Race condition. So with me is the blog post. I'll bump up my font a bit, so we'll just talk about all the changes that we made. First of all, I'd like to highlight that we've come a long way in our journey trying to make Prisma better. And it all started in 4.8 when we kind of made the whole engine size, or the query engine, significantly smaller. And I think we reduced the engine size by at least about 50%, specifically for Debian-based operating systems. And then in 4.11, we introduced a preview feature called JSON protocol, which we talk about, which just cuts down some of the overhead that perhaps we didn't need when Prisma was communicating with your database, and especially in the bit that involves the query engine. So as you can see, this is the first graph here shows like the before, which is where we came from, which doesn't look too good if it's roughly almost 3 seconds. And this represents the startup time for an application that has at least 500 models deployed to AWS Lambda. And after all our performance work, this is what it looks like with Prisma 5. You can see it's so negligible that it's really tiny. And these are the performance improvements we made. So the first one, as I mentioned, was the JSON protocol, which improved the the protocol that we used when communicating between Prisma client and the query engine. Besides that, it also helped cut down on how much memory that the query engine consumes when it comes to when it's communicating with your database and returning the responses to Prisma client. The other change, well, as you can see, there's a significant jump in performance where I guess the typical cold start again started out at 3000 and then it jumped to, I think I don't have the numbers, but I think it's roughly somewhere around the ballpark of 300 milliseconds. And Prisma 5, well, after a lot of testing, we made this generally available, and it's now the default protocol that Prisma uses when communicating with your database from the query engine level. The other big change that we made as we made JSON protocol the default is, for example, cutting down most of our dependencies. And previously we used a GraphQL-like protocol. It was not purely GraphQL, but it was GraphQL-like. So we cut down that dependency, and that significantly just, I guess, made the runtime, the JavaScript runtime, just significantly smaller. We also made a few optimizations in the query engine. For example, the component that is responsible for reading your Prisma schema and then kind of validating your queries happens in parallel as Prisma, well, the query engine is opening a connection to your database. So yeah, those are the improvements that we made. And I'll go ahead, and as you can see, we kind of cut down the response time from JSON protocol to this by about 2/3. So from you can see that the chunk is significantly smaller. So right now I'll go ahead and jump to the demo that I have. It's on a different screen.
I'll go ahead and post in a transition. But thanks again for showing that, Alex. I think if anybody has any questions about, kind of the concepts and things that we did behind this speed upgrade, we posted the blog post in the chat. The link to that is there. You can also probably find it on Twitter and on our website and everything like that. Or just always reach out to us. Where if you have questions right now, please don't hesitate. And we'll be right back in just 1 second, and we'll show you guys a demo of really what these speed improvements are doing in real time. Awesome. All right.
Okay, so I'll pump up front. So with me is 2 separate projects. I'll go ahead and minimize this. So I have a before and after, and before is kind of comparing version 4.16. As you can see, the before here, we are running version 4.16, and the after is now running version 5.0. And I'm currently, this project is using a SQLite database, which is local. I didn't kind of want to tamper with the data. And both have 2 models, a user and a post, and we'll be using, and I have a tiny script inside index.mjs. I'll zoom out just a bit on this. And you can see that after and the before, they're running just the same thing, where I create a new instance of Prisma client, connect to my database, and then kind of measure how long when the query kind of starts running, and then I kind of calculate the time and then log how many posts that are actually in my database. And then after that, log the time as well as how much memory that's kind of been consumed in megabytes. So if I go ahead, I'll clear up this too. So if I run the before, so it will be npx just node index.mjs. You can see that it takes 10 milliseconds and consumes the script consumed about 11.29 megabytes. And if I run it again, well, the first one was kind of like a cold start in a way, but the second one is slightly faster in the before, where it took 7, which is still considerable given that we only have 4 records in our database. And in the second one, that's running Prisma 5.0. If I run node index.mjs, you can see that, well, even if it was a cold start, it took 2.8 milliseconds to fetch the data, and it only consumed 8.25 megabytes. And if I go ahead and run this again, well, wow, that was a significant jump. I was not expecting that. but it roughly takes 1.41 milliseconds, and it's kind of just consistent. So as you can see, over here it's 1.65, and this other one is 1.41. If I run it again, well, I guess there's a kind of spike, but you can see that for most of the requests, it's consistently taking 1.25, and the amount of memory is significantly lower. So, but the main value of the JSON protocol is when you have a significantly bigger schema, not just two models like I have here. If you have a model, which I'm sure a lot of people do, like say that's up to 500 models, with the previous implementation on 4.16.2 with the GraphQL-like protocol, the amount of memory that's usually consumed kind of just grows with the size of your schema. However, with the JSON protocol, the memory consumption is kind of linear. So therefore, it kind of remains constant, mostly constant, I guess. And John, could you jump in and confirm that to make sure that I'm not using the wrong terminology here?
Yeah, absolutely. So the change here is that a GraphQL protocol is you need to send the entire schema when you're making requests from your client to the query engine, and so as your schema increases, the request size also increases to your query engine. JSON based, we're doing things under the hood to say, okay, we're going to not send the entire schema, and we're going to only send parts of what we need. And that dramatically improves performance and dramatically improves memory used. Saw in the chat someone asking about bump in time taken. We don't have a super great example live like this. I would check the blog post and look at the graphs we have there, because that's run over many different times. So sometimes things will just take a bit longer. Maybe a connection took a bit longer to process. Maybe a butterfly flapped its wings halfway across the world. Sometimes these things just take a bit longer. But on average, as Alex showed in that blog post, we're seeing roughly I believe it's a 10 times upgrade from where it was previously, or maybe even more. So previously we were seeing 2.7 seconds cold start, and now we're seeing sub 200 milliseconds. So exceptional performance.
Cool. And that was all for the demo. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, I hit all the wrong buttons. Sorry, I'm still learning. How to do StreamYard. Bear with me. We did have one question in chat that I'm wondering if you guys might have the answer or some kind of knowledge on. Is there anywhere Omar can find details about the new protocol design, or maybe the thought process behind it, or maybe you guys could shed some light on that?
I'm happy to answer that. Yeah. So Omar,
Sure.
Alex, please correct me if I misspeak. Yeah. So the protocol design, the original protocol is sort of historical, where Prisma's background as GraphQL. As for what went into that design, I would check out our blog post on 9x improvements. Mark or Alex, you might have the direct link to that post that you can put there in chat, but it's referenced in our new blog post on Prisma 5. But it goes over how we've improved our changes and sort of what we looked at and how that development process happened. So not super in depth. Maybe we can develop some more links and documentation on how to dig into the actual nitty gritty of the protocol. But I think that blog post is really interesting and shows how we developed.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea though. Maybe you kind of give us an idea for content or something we'll write about, which is great. It makes our job a little bit easier if people are interested in that kind of stuff behind the scenes. This is all wonderful. Alex, did you want to add anything else to this part where we're talking about the speed improvements or anything like that, or do we want to move into the next part here? We are getting a lot of questions, so I do appreciate that. Maybe we'll take some time to answer some of these.
Nothing from my side. I think John covered it all. Yeah.
Awesome. Ali, I think I remember reading about something about this internally. Do you guys remember anything about Ali's question internally about that, the Nest.js package?
Sorry. I'm going to demo a quick Nest.js thing. I'm not sure about that package, but
okay. Well, maybe we jump into the next demo here, and maybe some of these questions that are being asked will have answers. I know somebody asked about breaking changes, things like that. So let's go ahead and jump into that. We're gonna transition into that scene real quickly, and we'll be right back. Awesome.
Cool. Hopefully this is working great. So yeah, so I won't be able to see chat while I'm demoing this. Mark or Alex, if you could sort of run point there, that'd be super helpful. So I've got a pretty small repository here, a monorepo that shows some of the breaking changes that we have in Prisma 5. As much as we'd like to not include any breaking changes, that's sort of the nature of a major upgrade. And, we're going to have to sunset some old things and create some new things. So I've got two things that I want to show off here. These are revolving our JSON protocol. So that's what Alex talked about, and we've just made generally available what you'll need to do in order to update your code bases to be compatible with that new protocol. And then some changes we made to reject on not found, which was a deprecated property that you could use both in your client and on a query basis. So I'm going to jump into the JSON protocol example here. First off, this is code running in 4.16.2. So you see we have our generator client with our preview feature of JSON protocol. Helpfully, not really helpfully for this demo, but very helpfully, we have the Prisma VS Code extension saying that JSON protocol is deprecated. Let's just ignore that for now. So this is our schema, super easy with a client, DB, and user. And then we have our index.ts file. Again, just some simple queries that we're making. And finally, our package JSON. You can see here we have Prisma at 4.16.2 and Prisma client at 4.16.2. I'm going to come down here, like I'm sure many people will, and I'm going to upgrade to Prisma 5. I'm in the wrong repository.
Classic.
Yeah, classic. Let me run that command again. Cool. So now we see Prisma has been updated to 5.0. I'm now going to generate our client again. And then one thing that I found very helpful, it's kind of annoying, but that's just sort of the price of business, I guess you could call it, is restarting the TypeScript server. And you see we have errors now. So what's going on with this? So this is a change that we've made to support the JSON protocol, which is the removal of what are called array shortcuts. We can see here that you have a where block with an or statement in it. And this or is taking one element, which is an object. Things like this, so or, in, not in, these sort of operators now only accept arrays. So we can see here the error is not assignable to type user where input array. And then or says it only takes a user where input array or undefined. So if we come here and we say, okay, let's make it an array, TypeScript's happy, Prisma's happy. We come down here, same thing. ID is in just the number 1, the ID 1. If we wrap that in an array, Prisma's happy. we have everything good. If we go to the schema.prisma, like I mentioned, the sort of hint is that this JSON protocol feature is deprecated. You can just get rid of that. So this code base is now Prisma 5 ready, Prisma 5 compatible. I'm sure that we're going to see this great app do a lot of awesome things when I find users and do nothing else.
Cool. Perhaps also for context, we could explain why exactly we did it this way and why we're removing the array shortcut for single elements, in case people have questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of goes back to the GraphQL protocol, and the GraphQL protocol accepted either single elements or arrays of elements. And that was fine, but got confusing and definitely made our types unwieldy. So we switched to JSON, and it was sort of we might need to do this because JSON requires it. And also it simplifies things so much. Just say like, hey, we're requiring arrays only. Okay, like we have here. Cool. I don't see any questions in chat. Any more questions from y'all?
We have one question from Omar here. Does Prisma 5 come with full ESM support? I'm not really sure if that's on topic or not, but
kind of, sort of. So I'm using TypeScript, which is why I'm able to use like import syntax here. As far, my understanding is no, Prisma 5 does not come with full ESM support as of right now. We do have a experimental branch that introduces ESM support, and we're going to get that updated to Prisma 5 as soon as possible.
Awesome. Did you have anything else you wanted to demo here as far as breaking changes and upgrades go?
Yeah, I've got one more
Sweet.
package. So yeah, I'll switch to that now. So that was JSON protocol. The next change is reject on not found. So I'm going to switch over to that. And I've got to first, oops, I hit my own screen. Got to downgrade to Prisma 4 because I accidentally upgraded earlier. So reject on not found was a change that we made in Prisma 5. So the change here was that we had a property that existed in the Prisma client and in Prisma find unique and find first that said if you don't find something, raise or throw instead of just returning null. So that worked fairly well, but as I mentioned previously in JSON protocol, it made types super, super messy. So many versions ago, we introduced or throw methods. So find first or throw and find unique or throw, which always returned an object, and if they didn't, they raised. So, with 4.0, the reject on not found was deprecated, and with Prisma 5, we've removed it. In many cases, this is fairly straightforward to resolve, but one case that we noticed where folks had a lot of trouble was with Nest.js. So I have a Nest.js app here, which I created from our Try Prisma repository. So if you're using 4.16.2 or earlier, your Prisma service in Nest.js might look something like this. So it's common in Nest.js applications to extend the Prisma client and include that as an injectable service in Nest.js. If this is going over your head, don't worry. I only barely understand Nest.js, so we're going to focus actually on this section, lines 12 through 14, which is on the Prisma client. We, oh, you know what? This is the wrong example. Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, we'll talk about this, and then I'll sort of briefly mention what I was going to talk about before. Sorry about that, folks. So this is actually talking about a hook in a before exit hook in Nest.js, and so essentially this is saying when you are shutting down your Nest.js application, you want everything to terminate successfully. So in this example, if we go ahead and update to Prisma 5, we're going to update to Prisma 5. We're then going to regenerate our client and restart the TypeScript server. We can see that the before exit hook is gone. So for standard Prisma usage, we've removed this before exit hook, which is a problem for Nest.js users because Nest.js users use this per Nest.js documentation on how to work with Prisma. So we're working on that to sort of figure out. We're working with Nest.js to update the documentation to no longer include the suggestion. If you're watching this and you'd like your Nest.js application to be compatible with Prisma 5, it's pretty easy. So you go to your Prisma service, you remove this enable shutdown hooks section, and you're good to go. That's it. The only thing I would say is make sure that you have app.enable shutdown hooks enabled in your Bootstrap, in your main application. But the Prisma service does not have access to the before exit hook anymore, and also doesn't need it. This is something that was needed in earlier versions of Prisma, but is no longer required in Prisma 5.
And also to interject and kind of add a little more detail, this might be going into the weeds, but Prisma offers kind of when you run Prisma generate the two kinds of query engines that might be generated. The default one is the library query engine, which most people use it, unless you define otherwise in your Prisma schema. The other one is the binary query engine. So the before exit hook is not present in the library query engine, and it hasn't been since Prisma 3, I think. And therefore, yeah, we just decided to remove it because it's not really needed anymore. But if you're still using the binary query engine, which is like an executable, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the hook will still be present, correct?
That's correct. Yes, the before exit hook has not been removed from the binary query engine. It's just been removed from the library query engine. And if you're not using Nest.js, this example was just, we saw a lot of people with Nest.js run into this problem. So I wanted to provide it as an example. If you're not using Nest.js and you want to know how to upgrade to Prisma 5 to no longer use the before exit hook, our Prisma 5 upgrade guide has some great examples on what you can do.
And good news, I think the pull request we created on the Nest.js docs was merged earlier today. Yeah, they're all
Excellent.
good. Yeah.
Great. So hopefully no more confusion there.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions about that?
I don't see any that are specific to this. Chat, you guys can jump in and be like, hey, I know I said something, but I think it's okay to move on to the next demo, and then we can jump back if we need to. There are a lot of questions coming in chat, and I'm saving all of these, so don't worry, we're not just ignoring you. I'm just going to bring them up after the demos, and we'll talk about them in more of a discussion-based format or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, I'm not sure what happened with my repository. I think I might have accidentally overwritten my other example. So I'll kind of just I'll just describe it. It was supposed to be in this folder, but now this is the Nest.js one, so I'm not sure what happened. So reject on not found, as I described earlier, was a property that we introduced and a long time ago and has since removed. And that's sort of what I was talking about with utilizing the or throw methods instead of just a standard method that returns null or an element. I would recommend checking out the upgrade guides. We have a pretty extensive example there on how you can correct those issues.
Sorry to put you on the spot, John, but I think it would be also worth just kind of just opening the docs, and then perhaps we can go through
Yeah,
exactly how by
that
doing.
is I can do that, absolutely. Let me find our upgrade guide very quickly, and I'll share my screen.
We may not have a live demo for that, but we tested the examples in the upgrade guide. That's for sure.
Yes, like I made sure that this worked.
Yes.
Upgrading versions, Prisma 5. Cool. I will present one more. Awesome. So this is the upgrade guide. We're still making a few tweaks of it to it just to make it look even better. But what I was talking about here is the removal of the reject on not found parameter. So if you are enabling reject on not found at the query level, it will look like this. So in this case, you are calling find first, and you have reject on not found set to true. What this means is that if this promise returns null, so no user was found, instead of resolving with null, it will reject with an error. So in Prisma 5, we no longer support this reject on not found property. So in this case, how do you update your code base? With reject on not found to true, it's actually really simple. It would just be converted to prisma.user.findFirst or throw. Same exact behavior from these two. So really straightforward, really easy. Where things get a bit more complicated is if you're using a custom error handler. So that's this example right here. You have find first, where reject on not found is a function that returns a custom user not found error. One option is to wrap find first or throw in a try catch. And if you get the error code of P2025, that means not found, you can throw your own custom error. And if it's some other error, maybe a connection error or something like that, you can just re-raise. But some folks, have code bases with a function or an error handler that's used in a lot of different places. And, this gets kind of unwieldy after a while. So an option we have there is to create an error adapter, which is a function that takes in your own custom function. And if an error that it takes in is that P2025, throw function. So this is equivalent to the previous. You can see this uses a dot catch, so maybe that will work better in your application. But you don't have to wrap anything in try catches. You can just upgrade things to find first or throw, and then add this catch after it. Finally, we have reject non-found at the client level. So in some cases, this is going to be very easy, and in some cases, this is going to be very complicated. So at the client level, when you create your client, if you have set reject on not found to true, or you have set reject on not found on specific operations or for specific models, unfortunately, you'll just need to remove that from your client and then go through your code base, updating things like find unique to find unique or throw. So a bit tedious, I will admit, but fairly straightforward to resolve. If instead you're using a custom error handler, like any of these examples, I would recommend using our newly generally available client extensions. So again, I would encourage you to check out this documentation because I'm kind of glossing over things. But in the upgrade guide, I've taken this example 5 and translated it into a client extension that you can use, that you would get the exact same behavior as before, assuming that you update find first to find first or throw and find unique to find unique or throw. Pretty in-depth. So sorry for sort of glossing over a lot of things, but this will work exactly as before in Prisma 4.
I had a random thought. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share random thoughts, but But P 2025 means that the record is not found, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, I think we could have said something like P44, which is kind of like the standard for, well, it's HTTP, but given we append P, it's P44, not found, but just randomly sharing a thought out there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, great point. I am, to be honest, not sure why this code is the way it is, but I'm sure there's a historical reason for these error
Perhaps.
codes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have personally. Mark, any questions from your end or any questions from chat about this?
We have a lot of questions that I want to try to at least get some kind of answer to. So I think maybe we just start there. And if you've asked a question in chat, I have been trying to mark them all down. So we're going to try to go through them one by one, and with this group of people, hopefully we're able to answer them.
Cool.
And if I miss something, once we get towards the end of all this list, please don't hesitate to ask. Some of them are on topic, some of them are off topic, but I think it's important that we cover them all anyways. That's why we're here as developer advocates, to help you guys use Prisma and be involved with the community. So the first one is from T97, and he says, will Prisma ever introduce a custom builder? And I know we had some interesting ideas in the last hackathon, but I'm not sure where we're at with any of those. Maybe you guys have some more insight on that.
I think all we can say is that we're thinking about it and we may be considering it. No promises, no commitment, but it's an idea that's floating around.
It's definitely floating around. I've seen it talked about, at least I know that, but we can't say anything else other than that. Okay, great. Next comment, question that was asked, Joe asked, are any changes to DMMF Prisma 5 inside of Prisma 5, I assume? Do we know what I had to Google what that meant for a second, but you guys have any input on that?
I'll let John take it.
Okay.
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Yeah. No, sorry. Some changes, but get if you wouldn't mind, get in touch with us via Slack or Discord, and we can sort of figure out what your use case is. To be perfectly honest, we'd like to steer people away from using the DMMF. So if you are using it and you're required to use it, let's get in touch, and we'll sort of either like give you the information you need, or perhaps give you a suggested different path that doesn't use the DMMF. Thank you for the question, though.
And also, just to add on a little context for the rest, DMMF stands for Data Model Meta Format. Yes, I think that's the correct word for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Next up, Wes asked if there is any update to full text search inside of Prisma 5.
I'll triple check right now, but as far as I understand, full text search is still a preview feature. So no update other than it's a preview feature.
Well, on that note, preview features you can always try them out. As far if you're asking, can you use it? You can always try it out. I mean, the JSON protocol was a preview feature for a long time, and we just made it GA. So these speed improvements have existed for a little while, but you had to utilize the preview feature. So it's possible that you're going to be able to use that, and maybe you'll be able to provide good feedback on GitHub or anything like that, as far as that feature goes. It looks like, John, you posted here. I can copy and paste that into the chat. Here's the link for full text stuff. Off topic, will Prisma show defining schema using class entities? Will Prisma allow defining schema using class entities?
Great question. So as of right now, no. We think that the Prisma schema offers some really compelling benefits over a class-based approach. That being said, there are extensions and libraries in the wild that allow you to do this and allow you to translate from a TypeScript esque or JavaScript esque world into the Prisma schema. And I myself have been toying around with this as well to get something that approaches like an entity definition in TypeScript. No, but there are community projects that accomplish what you're asking for there.
The closest that one can get to is a tool called Schemix by one of our community members. We had him on a pretty long time ago, where you can define your Prisma schema as a function, kind of, and then you can, and then generate the Prisma schema afterwards. Yeah.
Great. Fernando asked, is create many a stable feature inside of V5, Prisma 5?
Yes. Create many, I think, has been stable for a while. I don't remember when, but I think it's from Prisma 3 or so. But I think create many is stable.
Sweet. Yeah, because I was looking for it and I was like, well, it's not in any of the recent ones, so I wasn't going to answer that right off the bat because I wasn't sure.
It's I believe it doesn't. SQLite's not supported though. That might be wrong,
yes.
But that I think
that's correct.
So create many is stable, but does not work in SQLite.
Yeah, the method isn't present either. But I don't know the reasoning why, but worth looking into as well on our end.
Great. Ali asks, can they still use Prisma version 4.16 in production, or would they have to upgrade to 5? And I guess that kind of highlights, do you have to upgrade right now if you don't want to?
You do not have to upgrade. We'll never force you to upgrade. It's a node library like any other. I would encourage you to upgrade. Prisma 5 is absolutely production ready, and especially, we've talked about JSON protocol. I'm confident that you will see speed improvements if you have not been using that preview flag in 4.16.2. You're more than welcome to stay on 4.16.2, especially if something is not working for you in Prisma 5. But if something's not working for you in Prisma 5, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you, and if it's a bug, we're more than happy to address it.
Awesome.
So one thing that I'm noticing a lot of, Mark, just before we go into it, there's lots of questions about support of different features and stuff like that. Upsert mini, joins, geospatial, so GIS. A lot of these issues, the reason I'm jumping in is because it's going to be this exact same answer for all of them, which is we hear you. There are some areas where Prisma does not work, and one of those is GIS, and one of those is Upsert Mini. And so, as of right now, the best I can say is we hear you. We're working on it. There are existing GitHub issues that cover those functionalities, and so I would recommend you go to those GitHub issues, give them a thumbs up, sort of explain your use case and why you'd like to see it, and that'll really help us prioritize. Yeah.
Awesome. I am going to try to catch up here because we have a lot of questions, and as we're answering questions, more questions are coming in. I kind of want to get to like the live feed, so let's try to like rapid fire these if we can. Mr. Tong asks, would caching the results from the Prisma extension be an appropriate solution inside of Prisma 5?
I'd say it's possible because we're also building Accelerate, which is a caching service that provides a couple of methods. But it is definitely worth exploring. And if you intend to build an extension, please share it with the rest of the world. And we'd be happy to even have you on the stream as you talk about it, or in our office hours. Yeah,
that's a great point. We office hours is kind of a more casual show that we do on Fridays inside of our Discord. If you're not part of our Discord, and really what we do is just more of what we're doing right now, which is Q&A, and people can talk about stuff. So if you're interested in that, make sure you join our Discord. Let me see. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm lost on the questions because there's more that have come in since I made my list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the live feed now, and then if I miss something, miss your question, you're like, yo, answer this, and we haven't answered it or you haven't gotten the answer yet, just go ahead and please retype it. Can we already migrate the client from an application in production to Prisma 5? I believe the answer to that is yes. Yep. That's
yes. Prisma 5 is production ready. It's released. It's not a beta. Please use it. Please give us feedback. We think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, overall, the reaction on Twitter has been wonderful about the speed improvements. And if you've missed the beginning of the stream where we kind of demoed the speed improvements, one, you can go back and watch that after this, but also we have a blog post going into more of it that I think is super interesting. And then somebody did bring up the fact of wanting to know kind of behind the scenes on what we did there, and maybe that's a good piece of content we can come up with in the future. This is a good one. You guys are on both Slack and Discord, which is confusing. Which communication channel is best to post questions, and is posting on both channels encouraged?
Yeah.
Right now,
I can actually cover this.
Okay, go ahead, John. Yeah.
Since I'm the kind of responsible for the Discord. So, well, that's not true. The Discord was once the community Discord managed not by Prisma, and we've adopted it. So the short answer to your question is wherever you're most comfortable. If you'd prefer to interact with us on Slack, please do it there. If you'd prefer to interact with us on Discord, please do it there. Both of those channels are considered to be best effort. So while Prisma reps, Prisma employees are in both, in an official capacity. Really and truly, we will respond to questions most effectively via GitHub discussions and GitHub issues. But if you want to interact with the community, if you have like just some kind of off-topic questions or want to show off what you've done, they're both great channels, and wherever you're more comfortable is where you should be.
Yeah, I second that. I personally hang out on Discord more, but I have the Slack open the entire time as well. So I'm always responding to everything.
Another question that came in from GG Nova is Prisma Client preventing modern attacks like SQL injection and NoSQL injection? Yes, where we do a lot to make sure that those kind of attacks are not possible within Prisma. Even if you're using, if you go down to raw SQL and stuff like that, it's still prevented via templated strings. So it's all good there. Dangerous. Always watch out for it, but yeah.
Wes, I wanted to highlight your message here because it kind of allows us to talk in general about how we support situations like this. Please share this kind of stuff with us. Any of the developer advocates, you can share it with the community. And I mean, in really any of our channels, we're kind of looking everywhere on Twitter, wherever, and we can help you individually, or you can share it on GitHub discussions, and the awesome community will help you there. But that's why we're here, is along with this type of stuff. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And the reason I highlight that is so hopefully others feel like they're able to do that as well. And then Omar, I did see this, and I think I skipped this, guys. What do you think about async local storage and async stores from async hooks node module for assigning Prisma client instance, etc.?
That's a great question. I hesitate to say you should do this. I think in a lot of cases, the async local storage and async resource is like not super well thought out, I'll be honest. And in certain environments, you may get unusual behavior if you're utilizing these. So if there's a case that you run into an issue with async local storage and async resource, please do let us know. Most of the time, though, I don't think you would need to use it. I'm curious what the thinking is to utilize that.
This is a larger conversation. You can always reach out to us, and we can communicate one-on-one. If it's like I have this idea, or how could I solve this type of situation?
Yep.
Currency, you asked, you're interested in using a Prisma with super-based edge functions. Would it be possible to get some working CRUD examples? Currently in this stream, I don't think we can do that at this moment, but I'm sure there are a lot out there. I'm trying to find right now our super-base example project in GitHub, and maybe somebody else has a link for that. Otherwise, again, this is one of those things where I don't want to keep on saying we can talk about it individually, but we can. So you can always reach out to us so we can help. But I'm sure I remember seeing an example myself, so I'm going to try to continue to look for that.
I'm going to have to unfortunately correct. Super-based edge functions, we do not have any examples for at this moment.
Oh, okay.
We have examples using the super-base database, but super-based edge functions are similar to Cloudflare workers or Vercel edge, things like that. We don't have any examples for that right now. However, we do have a project to revamp our existing, our existing deployment guides, and so we'll definitely take this into consideration. It's probably not going to make it in the first round of updates, if I'm being honest, but we'll definitely look into it.
And I believe super-based edge functions is closer to deno deploy because I think they use deno deploy. I may be wrong, but we have a
that is correct. They use deno
deployment example, not deployment example, but a deployment guide, which might be of help.
Yeah.
Well, I apologize for steering in the wrong direction, but that's why you guys are here to make sure I don't mess up. So thanks for that. I was curious, even though this is unrelated, are there any plans for supporting, oops, I'm sorry
about that.
Supporting HTTP-based database connections like Database.js, PlanetScale for the edge runtime?
Yeah, thanks for your question. Definitely on our radar. So there are a ton of like edge compatible drivers, let's call them. So PlanetScale, Neon, I think Supabase has one now. Vercel Postgres has one. We're looking at improving our support for these sort of things, and if not like drop-in replacement, then at least integrating with them in some fashion. So no news on that yet, but we're aware of them 100%.
Do I need to do some sanitization before used to the Prisma client?
Yeah, unfortunately, this question's like maybe a bit too vague for this forum. I'd encourage you to sort of reach out to us on Slack or Discord, and we can dig into sort of what your concerns are there.
Ali asked, what about Pulse? Is it a stable feature? Currently, Pulse is in early access preview. So you guys can sign up for it at prisma.io/Pulse, and we can get you into the early access program and help you guys get set up using Pulse. It's not stable, meaning we don't just use it in production currently, but it's always fun to experiment with, and we have a lot of cool ideas and example projects coming out around Pulse to hopefully inspire some of the things that you guys can do with it. So thanks for asking about Pulse. I know Pulse thing, but I'm kind of all I do is Pulse, so I was excited to see that.
Cool.
All right, we have about 2 more minutes here, so we can answer a couple more questions, and then we'll probably have to get out of here. I really do appreciate all the questions and all the interactivity today. I think this has been a great stream, and Prisma 5 hopefully is great for everybody using it. This person unfortunately has had some terrible experiences combining the all schema with the public schema in Supabase. Is this a priority in any way?
I think in this case, we'd encourage you to kind of share, you can reach out to us with your specific issue so that we can look into it further and also kind of expand on how exactly we can help you use multi-schema with Supabase better. That would be the best thing that I would recommend right now. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not able to jump into like everything right this second. That is kind of why we have our office hours, which is a little kind of meeting we do on Discord where people can bring up things like this, and we kind of do more live like demos or helping debug things individually, just because it's kind of more of a chill environment. So maybe make sure you get into Discord and get in with that, or again, reach out to us individually. when migrating to version 5, things that worked in version 4 may stop working, or can we migrate incrementally without any concerns? So we do have an upgrade guide that John wrote, but maybe he can highlight that a little bit more, and I'll link the upgrade guide for us.
Yeah. So the upgrade guide will tell you there are breaking changes. That's the short. Moving from Prisma 4 to Prisma 5, some things will work that will not work that did before. So I'd really encourage you to check out that guide. The Upgrading to Prisma 5 guide will walk you through any of the breaking changes from Prisma 4 to Prisma 5. If you run into issues that either aren't covered by that guide or aren't covered sufficiently by that guide, please reach out to us. We're still improving the guide, and we want to improve your work in Prisma.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think what we're going to do, we're going to have to end it here. I have a hard stop here in about 5 minutes, and I want to go get some water before that meeting. But I do appreciate everybody coming by the stream today. Thank you so much for all the questions, all the interactivity, and I hope you guys are as excited about Prisma 5 as we are. Look forward to interacting with you guys more in the community. And like we said all day, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Alex, John, do you have any final words?
Try out Prisma 5. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's mine as well. We're really excited about Prisma 5. We think you're going to love it. Please try it out and get back to us what you think.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming to the stream, and we will see you guys around the community. Have a good day.
Ciao.
Bye, everyone.